Yeah, this Dean guy.
I can't find him.
I don't know who he is. So
You couldn't find him
I've never
either.
met him. I don't know anything about him.
This kid is the greatest kid in the world.
He's got a great hairdo.
Well, he's also a great designer, you know.
Is he?
He did some great albums for a lot of other people.
Oh.
But if we could only find where he's at, we're supposed to have him here. You know that.
You can always interview me if you want, Jerry. I don't know.
Well, no.
Yeah, I'm not.
No.
I'm not very exciting.
You and I have been together too long.
We have.
We can't divulge the
Yeah,
relation. Tell you what we can do, though. We can call Tom Dreesen, and maybe he could tell you about parts.
So I hear.
Yeah. Anyway, anybody see Dean Torrence, ladies and gentlemen? Dean, where's he at?
Who's?
Wait,
it-
what are you doing in the audience? You're supposed to be up over here. Ladies and gentlemen, Dean Torrence, would you please? Yeah, you and me. Well, you get up over here. Wait, we've been looking all over the ship for you. I even called Tom Dreesen. I said, Tom, he said, well, I mean, come up here, would you please? Ladies and gentlemen, Dean Torrence, what? I've been looking all over this ship. This is crazy. I mean, thank you, Jason. You finally
We
found
found him. Oh,
Yeah, now
this
if you-
guy, I tell you.
Listen, if you can find Tom Dreesen, come up here. Find out how Tom knew about me. Come on.
Yeah, I'll
What,
go
you
find
got a
that out.
mic? You got
No, it's you.
you.
You have to talk to him. I'm sorry. I
What
didn't.
do you want?
tried to do the interview, but Jerry said he
What
wanted to
happened?
out your secrets right here, so I had to.
Well, I've been looking for you. I didn't know I got cataracts. That's why I've got my little sunglasses.
Oh,
Anyway.
I have a Lincoln Continental.
Wait, did you get that singing Jenny Lee with Jan and Arnie, or was it from Jan and Dean? Where did that all come from?
What the Cadillac and the.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sit down.
I
We're
got
gonna-
a cataract.
We're going to talk about all that.
Okay. Well, I got a Lincoln Continental. That's one of my favorite jokes. I don't understand it though. Maybe it.
Well, no. Let me tell you. You know, I've said this to you before when we worked. We worked before, by the way, with the Beach Boys.
Isn't it weird he calls this work? I mean, some of these people have real jobs, and you're talking about
Can
what
I have a
you
little
do.
more sound?
No, he doesn't need any more.
I need.
Keep him turned down a little bit. You want to be up to 10 or 11?
I just need a little more because you know I can't see anymore. I can't hear anymore. Thank God I still can dance.
And you're a pretty face.
Oh,
you know?
I know.
Eh,
But
There
you know,
you go.
let me tell you. You know, we've been talking about the East Coast, the East Coast, the East Coast, and all these tours. But sometimes we forget how important musically you guys were on the West Coast. I mean, with the beach, right, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, very important. You know, the Tokens were talking about the fact when the British invasion came, it wiped out most of the American singers and artists. But the only music that survived, Motown, Beach Sound, and the Four Seasons. Really. Now,
Sorry about that. Not really. Okay. No,
Going
you're
back-
right. I don't know why.
well, because it was the West Coast, the beach sound. I mean, how you going to try and compete? The beach sound was American. I mean, the English sound was the English sound. You know, tell me about the early days when you first began. I know that you met the guy you sang with, Barry.
What's his name?
Right? Yeah, right. Barry. Last name was Barry. You met in high school. You were both football players. I can't believe that. What position did you play in football?
Oh, I was probably what you'd call a wide receiver on offense, but I actually like to play defense. I like to do the hitting instead of getting hit. So I'd play a little what would be called free safety.
Right. And also,
And actually, that's what I play in the band, right? Free safety. They always say, like a free safety, it's free. You can go any place you want. You don't have a specific place to be.
Right.
So if you want to go over there, you go over there, or you want to stay over here, or guess and go someplace else. It was quite okay. So I like that.
also in the same high school, James Brolin was a part
Yeah.
of you guys.
Nancy Sinatra.
Yes, I go back with that Sinatra clan a long time.
I bet you did.
Well,
Well, anyway.
well, but at any rate, you very impressive. I was reading the bio, but I knew a lot about even before reading the bio. Uh,
I thought you said Bible.
you worked. You like that?
I'm not that old. Okay.
Did you like that I knew about you and Herb Alpert, and you and Steve Bender, who, by the way, produced the Elvis special that they did. Remember when he was in
did.
black?
No,
You don't remember Elvis?
I remember Elvis.
Well, there was a
I
great
played football against Elvis, but musically, I didn't spend that
Musically?
much time with him. He's I
But
certainly liked
how do you get involved with music and also the graphic design? Some of the things that you did album wise, I remember.
didn't have anything better to do. I got
You
kind
just
of retired.
you laid back. Why did you retire?
Well, Jan crashed.
Right,
and
right.
Just wasn't that much fun,
Right.
doing it by myself. I mean, I got a lot of offers. Well, no,
Right.
you can do it. And I figured you can't. We had such a good time that to try and redo it, and retool it without him, it just didn't.
Well, you went into the
seem right.
service for a period of time, right?
Of course I did.
I said
I'm an American. Right?
that's my line.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You can do it again. They probably didn't hear it anyway.
but there was a period that you weren't singing with Jan, right?
Well, that was before I actually sang. I got it done right after high school
Right.
because a recruiter came to high school and said, if you sign up now, there is a reserve program. And we were 17.
Okay.
So you young guys, if you get in right at 18, you could be out by the time you're 18 and a half.
Right.
That sounded like a good idea to me. Now, we'd still be on, standby if that something happened. But you took the chance that you didn't have to, give up your freedom for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So it was just 6 months. We were in and out and back in the school.
What high school did you go?
University High School, which is named University because we were very close to UCLA.
You know, when I did my TV show, it was very, very big in LA, and they sent me out. At that time, it was Seven Arts, Warner Brothers, syndicated the show. And I never forget, I'm a kid that came from a school, there's one block, and that's the school, you're in that block. And I went to Fairfax High, and it was like a campus. I mean, I was in shock. I mean, East Coast kid, school's right here. But you had to walk here to biology and another building for geometry and everything was one. And I addressed a class and they fell asleep. They didn't want to know nothing about the East Coast. I was talking about rhythm and blues and rock and roll because at that time there were certain guys out there, Lou Adler, and I think you remember Lou, right? You worked with Lou Adler?
He and Herb were our managers. They worked for Sam Cooke. They wrote Wonderful World that I heard last night. And so that's a pretty big song for these. They were 20, probably 24,
Right.
25 when they wrote that.
This is before, I'm sure, before Lou married Nanette's daughter, right? Shelley Fabre.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't know that, but Lou Adler was a great producer who, I would go out to L.A. and spend time with Sammy, and we go to a place called the Daisy. We go to a place called the Factory.
It was a little light in your loafers thing, yeah.
I mean,
Okay, there. Okay.
you remember those places? L.A. was a whole different world. The East Coast, for you people, we'd stay out till 2 o'clock in the morning, go to private clubs. L.A., 1 o'clock, they took the drinks away. I mean, you had to be out. We went to a Hamburger Haven. Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah. Hamlet.
Haven to
Close
me.
enough.
But tell me about the musical scene on the West Coast at that time, Dean. Well, I
It
mean, you
was,
worked
it
with
was-
Bruce Johnson.
yeah.
I mean, all those
Well,
guys. You worked.
Bruce was a classmate. He was in our very first little garage band.
Mhm.
We played live once. Just once.
But
But
you,
Bruce was there.
right? But
He was a neighbor of Jan's. He would take the school bus together every morning. And Jan would go to Bruce's house early before the school bus get there so they could sit at the
This is
piano
before the
and
Beach
play.
Boys, though,
Yeah.
right? Wait,
We introduced them to the Beach Boys.
see, now that I didn't know. I know that you were very close with them because when we did the tour back, I guess the cruise several years ago, you got on stage with them and you put me on stage with them, and we all, with Mike, and we all wind up singing together.
Wasn't that fun?
It
And
wa-
Dion, we brought Dion out.
Yes,
too.
we brought Dion.
He'd never met them, and he said he wanted to meet them, and he was going to wait in the dressing room. I said, don't wait for the dressing room. Come on out and
Yeah, we all
sing with
sang
them.
together.
He goes, don't you have to ask? No. he was so confused, and I tried to drag him out.
Yeah, I
and
remember.
I got him close to the stage, and then he pulled away. So I had to go because
You got it.
I had a song to do. Then I looked at him again. I kept going like this. And I don't know. I finally got him. He came out, and you guys loved him, and of course, he had a lot of fans. So,
You
but
know-
he met them on stage for the very first time while they're getting ready to sing a song together.
You also did the Tammy. That was right.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
that's pretty cool.
Do you guys remember the Tammy show? Big. Is it? Yeah, it featured. This is the guy that was a part of that. Yeah, you were hosting
We were
that.
the host the dang thing.
Right.
Yeah. I got to
Smokey Robinson
skateboard. I got to skateboard on stage for one of the first times. And people go, "What the hell is that?" Oh, I would keep a skateboard in a guitar case. So I'd bring out the guitar case, and everybody goes, "Oh, Jesus, he's going to show off playing some acoustic guitar or something." I'd take it out, open it up upside down, and go, "God, was he going to break that guitar?" Skateboard would come out and go, clunk. What the hell is that? Well, I'll show you what that is.
You did a little TV.
a little
you did
bit of
Tammy,
everything,
and
right.
you hosted. You remember the Midnight Special?
Kinda.
Donnie Kirshner put all that together, and
I had to sue him.
you had a suit.
Yeah. He was not
Well,
a nice
right.
man.
You guys were beach kids. You guys up the East Coast where we were in the suits and the ties and dancing and doing all that. You guys were just laid back. How is that? How you would describe the beach sound, the surfing sound, and all that?
I mean, we were just us. I mean, I don't remember really figuring out your wardrobe and all of that. It was just whatever you happened to be wearing at the time.
Right. You were beach
No.
bums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lou Adler, who did end up being our manager, and Herb Alpert, when we first, they knew that they were not going to advance into Sam Cooke's entourage because they were the younger guys.
Right.
So they knew their days were probably numbered in terms of being involved with Sam's career. And as it turned out, they made a good choice. And they came to work for us. They became our manager and our co-producers. So getting that expertise from those guys, they were brilliant, really, really brilliant guys. So
Herb was an amazing musician, also a great businessman. And Lou Adler was I saw Lou, when Dick Clark passed, I was invited to the whole thing that they had at the end, which
Memorial,
was a private thing in Malibu.
Yeah.
And I saw Lou, and Lou, we spoke for a while. Dionne Warwick was there. I was there with Frankie Valli. And Lou had retired. Lou was retired, basically, I didn't recognize him. He grew a beard.
yeah.
He could have been a beach
And a
boy.
goofy hat.
Right. Could have been a
usually.
beach boy,
Yeah.
right, with you guys.
Oh, by the way, yeah, if you ever watch a Lakers game and Jack
Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson is where he sits courtside, because he can. He'd probably like to play too, but they at least got him a seat close enough. The goofy guy that sits next to him with a hat, usually in some wild clothes, that's the guy we're talking about. It's Lou. Big Laker fan.
I talked about the West Coast. You remember Gene Autry, right? Gene Autry had a label called Challenge.
It indeed was a challenge, as I remember. Yeah,
So he had a song called Tequila. by the
Oh,
Champs.
that was cool.
By the Champs. So I was playing it, and it became a hit on the East Coast. So I got a call from Gene Autry. True story.
Wow.
This is 1960, maybe 63, 64.
I think it was
What?
50s.
No,
He's
Gene
ch-
Autry
he's
was
ch-
in the 50s. I'm talking about Tequila,
That was
58,
a
59.
early-
Yeah,
Okay,
58,
you just
58.
said 60s.
But I got a call
I
because he
caught
had
it.
another record, and he said, "Do you ride horses?" And I love horses. He said, well, "My promotion man, Gene Autry, had a lot of money. You
Yeah,
know,
he
the
was
whole
very
team he
wealthy.
owned, and he owned everything. There were two guys out there owned a lot: Bing Crosby and Gene Autry.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay." So he says, "You ride horse?" I said, "I love horses, man. I used to ride horses up and down the street. If you read the book, I used to get 25 cents and ride kids around the block, 50 cents for around the block." So he said, "Well, my promotion man's going to send you something." 2 weeks later, they sent me a saddle. I swear to you. I said, "What am I going to? A saddle, a real
I think
saddle."
they'd send you the horse, damn it.
Well,
What,
I,
what's that's
I
really
could get the horses, but I wasn't going to put this big saddle on the horse. I had the guy in the stable do it. So I gave the saddle to the guy in the stable. I said, "This is a gift from Gene Autry." He sold it for $500. These are the racket guys.
Damn.
But you don't know any.
Well, he gave us enough money to get more horses, so we got a bunch.
You ride horses too?
No, it was a Stingray. Had 427 horses.
Right. My man.
All compressed
Absolutely.
down and under a hood, but still, it's still a lot of horsepower.
Right, right. Jenny Lee, the song Jenny Lee. Tell me about that song. Where'd that come from? Wasn't there a Jenny Lee out there when it was Jan and Arnie?
Yeah.
Right, right.
I went in the Army, and then Arnie, well, we were all working on a song. We never meant to be a duo. We didn't even want to be a duo. And I'm still, to this day, I got my guys, and we are not really a duo. We're a vocal group. Well, even in the beginning, we just
Well,
wanted
you
to
sang
be,
with a group called the Barons.
we wanted to be Dion and the Belmonts.
What,
And we
you-
were very,
Right.
of course we did.
Well, you know there was a group called the Barons.
Well, that was we came
No,
up with that.
there was a black
Oh,
group.
no, there really
Right.
was. You're
I
right.
know I was wrong. Bum, 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 bum.
Oh, yeah.
There was a group because I jitterbugged that song on Bandstand. Read it in the book in 1956. But there was a group, and you formed a group called the Barons.
We didn't know about those the East Coast Barons. So we were the West Coast Barons
Right.
in a garage band. So a 3-car garage band, right? It just wasn't your normal. Jan's house, he lived in Bel Air. And of course, he had a 3-car garage, but so it wasn't your normal garage band.
How old were you when you really hit it? I mean, when you guys were making all those hit records?
How old? Well, the first hit, 19.
You were 19.
Yeah. And some more back up to 20s, mid-20s,
Now
till
you-
Jan's accident.
Now, you know what happened with a kid, the street kid in the East Coast, if he had a hit record and lived in the neighborhood, man, this kid was a star. But back there, I guess, when you were hitting
Everybody was a star.
everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's nothing. Nobody paid any attention.
I was always curious about when I went to L.A. It was so sprawling. I mean, I'm a street kid. You know, everybody lives next door to you. You know, who's doing this, who is that. You tell me about the whole lifestyle in back then in L.A.
See, it didn't seem to be a lifestyle. I mean, we just did what we did. But it wasn't until we came back, to the East Coast, checked out, we went, oh, not everybody lives like us that goes to the beach every single day. And the weather changes from 74 to 71.
Right.
And really cold at 68. Had no idea. Boy, we came back for our first Dick Clark show, and I looked around. Oh my God, what is this?
Right.
It was so strange.
Well,
to
that's
me.
how strange it was for me when I went to L.A. I mean, I would stay at Sammy Benedict Canyon, all right, Summit Drive, Okay, I mean, there's all these big houses, and he said that's where Cary Grant lived, and that's where Mary Pickford lived. And I said, how the hell did they live like that? Who paid for all that money? He said the studios paid for all that money at the very
Yeah,
beginning.
man.
I mean, I was in awe. So the experience.
We used to have a sailboat, and we would sail down Balboa Island, and we would go by John Wayne's boat, and he would
Oh.
always be out there on weekends drinking, and the boat would be rocking, he'd be rocking, and John, he'd, hey boys, go drowned. So okay,
Wow. I mean, that's.
and he just said that was just John.
You worked with Sandy Linzer.
Send you who?
No, you didn't. I'm thinking of Sandy.
Nelson.
Yeah, right, the drummer.
He's a neighbor.
Really?
He lived maybe 2 blocks away from me. He was a strange boy.
But really,
Very.
Sandy Nelson.
very-
He
He played great piano. I mean, he played crazy something or other, somebody auto. Anyway, it was like that.
and you worked with Ernie Freeman, who I loved.
But we can't give up on Sandy. So Sandy,
got-
anyway.
okay.
So he was, and so he'd play keyboard, and I like to
Right.
go and listen to him. And then he hired me to mow his lawn because his mom would give him 50 cents to mow the lawn because he was lazy. And then he figured out he could give me 25, and he'd keep 25. I had a power mower, so I'd just go over and mow his lawn really quickly, and he'd be happy with that. But I'd sit and watch him play. Crazy Auto.
Yeah, yes.
And that's a hard song to play. All, he didn't ever get a piano teacher or anything. Extraordinary piano player, and I was in awe. Then one day I come up to, and he always had the garage door open. That's where all his instruments and stuff were. And he started playing this damn drum. I'm going like, doesn't have any tone. It's just noisy. I kind of thought, why would you give up piano to play that dumb instrument? He said, "Oh, sorry, David."
You're a drummer.
My gosh, no, I mean, Sandy wasn't as good as you.
That's your drummer.
So I said, why are you playing drums? I like to. Okay. So when Jan started, when we were doing our mostly a cappella stuff
Right.
in Jan's Bel Air garage, he thought, we should really find out what it sounds like with a real drum. So do you know anybody? I just happen to know a drummer. And there weren't that many drummers in those days. I got a guy like 2 blocks from me, this guy Sandy. Well, bring him up. I said, okay. So I went and found Sandy, and I had a pickup truck, a 32 Ford pickup. So I could load all of his drums into the back of my truck, and I drove them up to Bel Air. We set them all up. We go, okay, here's the song, and it goes like that. Jan played the piano and showed him the structure. So, okay. So we sat at the piano with a microphone, and Jan played piano, and then we counted it off for Sandy. So he starts playing away. We thought it sounded pretty good. Then we go to the tape recorder, wind it back, hit play. All you could hear is, didn't think about that. The drums come and take over the whole thing. Well, move them further back. So we moved them to the end of the garage. Okay, you're right. Okay. And we did it again. Still all drums. So what? What can we do? Baffles. That's a good word. So I think we hung some sort of blankets up in front of
the
him
studio.
to try and stop the sound come in the microphone that we had. Though we'd still get some drums. We didn't mic the drums. We didn't have many microphones. So, okay, try it. Barely hear him. Where is he?
Take
We finally
28.
gave up, and we said that Hobby says, this isn't going to work. Jan at one time said we could put them outside by the pool. I said, what's that going to do? You know, okay, never mind. We packed them all up. Jan says, get them out of there. And then Sandy, on his way out, he goes, you know, you guys, someday I'm going to have a record all of drums. Jan goes, that guy is really nuts. I told you it's a little unusual. 2 years later, he had a #1 song, all of drums.
You know, I talked about Sandy Linzer. Sandy Linzer was with Denny
Sandy
Rendell.
Linzer, of
Sandy Linzer was the writer with Denny Rendell, who did a lot of things for the Four Seasons. That's where my mind went for a moment.
Oh,
so
of
you have
course.
to excuse it if my mind wanders.
It wanders. That's a wanderer.
The
Jesus,
Wanderer.
the wanderer.
The Wanderer. But Ernie Freeman, we were talking about Ernie Freeman, great arranger. And I understand that you may have worked with him a little bit at one time.
He probably did our early stuff with Herb. Herb Alpert obviously could write music. So he would arrange our songs, but he would have Ernie sit in and play all the tracks. We did everything backwards because we could. We would do the vocals with the piano in the Bel Air garage with our home tape recorder. But it was an Ampex, you know, it's a good thing. And then Herb would schlep it down to a studio and then get Ernie and his guys, studio guys. They'd put on headphones and listen to our tacky piano, and they would try and play along with it. For real musicians, they would go, my God, you know, the tempo to them was, you know, felt like we were under.
You guys really were then the definition of underground garage back then.
Yeah.
You know, Stevie Van Zandt, my friend Stevie, now has a show on radio called Underground.
He loves to play those songs.
Right.
From what I
you know,
really heard it.
he asked me to do the show for Sirius. So I said, he wanted me to do the morning show. And I said, yeah, Stevie, whatever you want. He said, but Geeter, you can't play what you want to play. You got to play what they want to tell you to play. I said, that's not me, man, you know. And see, you guys don't know radio back then in the day. Well, you got guys like Art LeBeau. Huggy was out there, right?
Yeah.
Right. Back then, you could take a record right to the disc jockey, and if he liked it, he'd put it on. Today,
Immediately, while you're standing there.
boom, right. Here's a new hit that I just heard, ladies and gentlemen. Beep, 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 beep. And in a week's time, the record stores would be getting calls, and you'd be a star back then.
So yeah, so the record store, we had Wallach's Music City,
Yes.
which was the biggest record store
Which
we'd ever
became
seen.
Capitol Records. Yes.
So we knew that a lot of this is driven by sales. So if our friendly disc jockey plays our song, that immediately we would next day go into Wallach's Music City, find our bin. Maybe we'd have 50 records in there. And we look around, nobody's looking. We'd take them out. And we'd move them around to other people's bins. And there's a little card in there keeping track of there were 50 in there, and some salesperson coming, oh my God, it's down to 3. Wow, this record's really moving, man. Call up, we need another. Well, let's take 100 of those. And we come back the next day, there'd be 100 in there. And then somebody started figuring it out and kind of saw them and then moved them back. So we were up 50 records, and then next thing you know, somebody returned about 25 or 30.
They were called returns back
Jan
then.
said, we got to get the records out of the store. Oh, okay. We'd wear these club jackets. The Barons had club jackets. And we would walk in. Nobody's looking. We'd put them under our arms and kind of walk out like that. And that record shot up the charts. No idea if anybody actually bought it. But
Did you have jukeboxes back then?
yeah.
You know, a lot of people didn't realize this about the industry. The record business really began. The little labels, Imperial, if you remember, Specialty, little cockamamie labels, jukeboxes. You would go in and you would play a record. You would get 25 cents, you get 6 plays. But the guys in the record business would have a little thing with a quarter like this, and they would go in and they keep on playing that record over and over again. And they would pay the guy who had the
cheat.
jukebox to play that record. And kids, you go, after we were playing in the streets, you know, you're playing half ball, you're playing football. You go into the candy store, luncheonette, and the guy that owned it would be putting this in, put a quarter in, go ahead, play it. And we'll keep on just saying, well, we got 6 plays, but this song keeps on coming up all the time. You know, it was interesting, the industry back then. West
No
Coast was
kidding.
different than the East Coast, though, back then. The labels back then, you know. And Louisiana sound, guys like Lou Chudd, you know, who owned Imperial,
Right.
you know, owned, and Artie Roop, who owned Specialty Records. As a matter of fact, you know, they called it Specialty Records because they made special records only for jukeboxes. Specialty, that's why it was called Specialty.
That should be a trivia question
Right.
tomorrow, and you're all gone.
We won't be home. We'll
I
be
know.
somewhere.
Well, that's why it'll never get answered.
What did you, listen,
I don't know what I said.
when you did the Tommy show, a lot of East Coast artists were there, right? First time
Yeah, a lot.
first time you really got to see the difference between the moves and all that?
Yeah, we knew, but, you know, James Brown. We knew what James Brown did. We worked with James before, so James was really he was the guy that really closed that show, of course, with his what he does.
With the famous flames
Yeah.
that go down on the ground. Please,
Now-
please pick them up.
The Rolling Stones, they wanted to close the show. See, so somehow they lobbied enough to then be the show closers, and James didn't like that. So James goes, "I'll show you, little white boys, what I can do." He just
Destroy.
cleaned them, cleaned their clocks. But it was a good show. But he was one of the best.
You know, back then, James carried 2 drummers. Now, certain musicians, certain artists do that. Same thing with Little Richard. Well, you know, Preston Epps worked with Richard as Jimi Hendrix worked with Little Richard, if you remember back then.
Yeah.
You had some great musicians back there.
So the 2 drummers we did see for the first time with those guys, and probably with James, and all the shows that we would do with Murray the K.
Yes.
All those big bands always had 2 drummers because, you know, it's a big room and 2 is better than 1, you know. So we started thinking right around Surf City when we were going to cut the Surf City track, we thought, you know, we should try that. Try 2 drummers in the studio.
Right.
Really never been done before. And we had a guy, Earl Palmer, who was one of the
Earl
original
Palmer,
you know,
man.
Ernie Freeman
What?
guys.
What? I'm telling you, man. He did
Man.
he did those Sinatra sessions also.
Yeah,
man.
I mean,
You
he
know,
was
with Ernie
a
Freeman.
pro's pro, and then but we had Hal Blaine, who was like the
Another
newest
cat, man.
guy on the scene.
You know, you're right.
Did them together.
Your musicians out there, and those West Coast musicians, man.
We were very lucky. I mean, that's why those records sounded so good. These guys were such good players, and we're the ones that told when Brian came to hear the Surf City track, because he didn't even know we finished the song. He gave it to us half finished. He was tired of it and lost interest in it. Said, "Yeah, you can have this."
Really?
Geez, thanks. So we cut the track, and then we said, okay, we finished that song you gave us, at least got the instrumental part. Do you want to come hear it? And if you like, you're welcome to sing. So he was very interested in that. So he showed up, played the track, and he went, "My God, how'd you do that?" I said, "Well, we hired the best guys in the world to play that track." He was still using his band. And we said, "Brian, your band's out working on the road. They're tired. You're waiting for them to get back. You have all these projects you're working on. You have to wait for them. Don't wait. Call Hal. This is Hal Blaine's number. And if you like this track as much as you're saying you like it, you can have exactly these same players. Just tell Hal, I want the guys that played on Surf City." And from that point on, he did. So when you hear Surfing USA, you know, it's a great song. The track's okay. But from that point on, his records, you know, got a lot better. Really sounded great. And, you know, his guys didn't mind. They would come off the road. They were tired doing it. The rest, they would go right into the studio because he would, he's been waiting for him. This way, you guys just do the vocals. You do vocal records. You don't have to beat up your guys, and Carl can play a little guitar fill, so that's his little signature, and you got yourself a great record.
So
And you've made a very bunch of great records.
let me ask you a question. How many takes did you guys do? I'm saying this for a reason. On the East
I hope
Coast,
so.
on the East Coast, what they would do is they would rehearse like Frankie Lyman or the Cliftones before they went in the studio, and they would all do it live. All right, they would do it live with the musicians and everything there. And if you didn't nail it by the fourth or fifth track, you left. You came back the next day, and they had the finished product back then. You know, that doesn't happen any longer today in the recording industry back then, because they overdub and overdub. Right.
Even in the day, it was like $300 an hour or something
Right.
like that. You couldn't go in there and waste time rehearsing, which you could do at home or something. But I don't know. We normally did it in the studio anyway because we could.
Well,
But-
Spector would go over and over and over and overdub with these things, but cats on the East Coast, the Bell Sound, I mean, you had X amount of time to get the record done and out and give it to Alan Freed or give it to the Geeter, and if it, boom, because the East Coast was different than the West Coast.
Yeah,
You
it
had
was.
great, most of the musicians that played on the East Coast also worked with Count Basie. The studio musicians, musicians needed money, because Count Basie was at Birdland 36 weeks a year. So those musicians, to make extra money, they would be studio musicians back over there, Just like the backup singers that you guys had, Darlene Love and the Blossoms and people like that, whole different industry back then. It will never be the excitement that you kids have with the garage music and stuff like that. I mean, or what we had on the East Coast, a whole different world. And you were young kids, I mean, at that time.
And we were going to school 5 days a week. So our classes weren't really over until, Jan was pre-med, so he'd go all day, and I guess I was there most days. So we didn't have time to record until, by the time you get in your car and go to the studio, it's probably 7. Maybe it was the earliest we'd get to the studio, practice a little bit, and then we'd either cut tracks and or start doing vocals, and nobody was around in the studio. So it was nice and quiet. We could go at our own pace and be, 2 or 3 in the morning when we finished, but that's the only time we had, and back to school by 10.
Right.
So it worked out. It was nice.
I wish I was a kid growing up on the West Coast for maybe about 2 years, and then growing up on the East Coast, because it's like a culture shock. It really was a culture shock for a lot of the kids that were doing shows, street corner kids. When they come back and did my TV show, say, "Man, we were just on the West Coast, man. Crazy, sunset, beep, beep, bop, bop, beep, 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 the cars beeping, beep, 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 bop, bop." You didn't have neighborhoods. You had one car and one family. Now they got 22 cars for one family. I mean, but it really, when I went out there, and I used to love to go out there because I stayed at the Continental, on Sunset.
Yeah.
Little Richards lived there for a period of time, man. And when Dick Clark moved out, he was there on Sunset. And Lou at that time also had the club.
Roxy.
Yes, he had the Roxy.
I designed the Roxy logo.
Well, I said that when I first came out. I said, "You're a graphic designer, man." I remember the albums that I remember, because I look at albums to see the back what the songs were. Yes, you were a graphic designer. Wow.
I happen to know Lou, so I got the job because I was the only graphic designer he knew.
Wow. Then it became the Whiskey Go-Go, right?
Yeah.
The Buckinghams.
I did the Buckingham. Yeah, I did. Nice kid.
But you won.
Derry knows all this.
But you won a Grammy for some of those things, right?
Yeah. Well, I got 3. Isn't that strange? I got 3 Grammy nominations for graphic design and never got one for music. There was some sort of message there, I think. And then when I finally did get it, out of the 3 nominations, I did get a Grammy, and they misspelled my name.
Let's get him on the phone.
No, I don't even care about them. They just misspell my name, then I'll put it in my guest bathroom, on the back of the toilet. That's where it went. Honestly, right? You guys know, you all saw it. Yeah. And at one point, my daughters, when they were younger, they broke my Grammy. They sat on it. They had put it on a couch because they were playing with it, and then they got bored with that and set it down. And then they forgot. Then they played some soccer, and then they retired. So they sat on my Grammy and broke it in 3 pieces. And they were so afraid that how much trouble they were going to be in. And they went to Mommy, and they said, we're sorry we did that. I sat and broke it. So my wife says, well, when he comes home, you just tell him that, it was just an accident. You're sorry that you went to the back of the toilet and picked up. It wasn't like they took it out of a trophy case or something. It was on the back of the toilet. So they were playing, and you broke it.
You know what happened?
So I said, okay, but he's going to be really angry. I don't think he will be. They told me when I came up. I laughed so hard. I had tears. I found tears in my belly button. It was, and I said, look, girls, I can fix it. No, it's really, and I said, I can fix it. And I went to the garage, and I got some duct tape. Got some duct tape, and, I split it a little. It was a little bit too wide, and got it in pieces. And I wrapped it up, and the little gramophone thing was like hanging. It was hilarious. I loved it. And I had a buddy that came over and looked at it, and he cracked up, and he said, I got to own that. I was a little tired of it by that time. I'd shown it to everybody. I said, you can have it. And he said, I'll pay you what it would cost to replace it if you ever do. So I took the money and I didn't buy a new one. I just kept the dough. I should have at least taken a picture of it. It was very.
You had the mentality of an East Coast kid.
Oh, good. I think that's is that a compliment?
You got the money?
Yeah.
Ah.
I saved it.
That's good. The East Coast kid would have blew it.
Yeah.
He would have bet a couple of numbers and went to the track.
Lou Adler, to this day, whenever I go visit, he says, you have the first per diem I ever gave you in 59, don't you? I said, yes, I do. I'm not going to spend it yet. I think you owe me some per diem. Remember that trip to Hawaii? I don't think you gave it. Oh, I may have. Oh, I forgot. So you owe me that per diem. That was 1961. Okay.
61. My God. Yeah, you guys started in the latter part of the 50s. Yeah. 57,
59.
50. Yeah, okay. Wow.
Well, Jan and Arnie had Ginny Lee was 58.
Right.
So, that was early on.
What was that? The Arwen label. ARWI. It was a West Coast label. The Arwen. These things come back into my mind. I mean, there were so many little record labels back in the day.
That was
so in the
Doris
East Coast.
Day's label.
Yes.
And Doris Day, this was a tax shelter for her to hide her money into this. Well, this is my new company. And so I'm putting the money that I earned into this company so you can't tax it because it's in her record company. Yeah. They hired the dumbest guy they could find to run it, thinking he'll never get a hit, and that'll be fine. We'll just keep sheltering that money, and the money will be still in the bank there, but we're waiting to, do stuff with it so it doesn't get taxed until you make some money. So she had it all figured out, and this damn guy went out and found us in a recording studio just making a copy of our tape. We wanted a demo. After all this stuff recording on the home tape recorder, we kind of got tired of having to have a tape recorder around. We thought, we heard you can actually make a disc and put your music on something that really looks like a record. Wow, that was cool. And I remember asking him, well, how much is this going to cost? He said, it's $20. I said, I don't need one. So Jan went to get one because he wanted one. He wanted to press some girl or something. I don't know. So he was getting a demo, and some record producer and this guy that worked for Arwen, the dumb guy, hears it through a door and goes, "That sounds pretty good." And he goes and he opens up the door and finds Jan. And he says, "What is that? What label's that on?" Jan said, "Well, I think we get this little white label that they type up the title and put it on it." He said, No. I mean record label. "Oh, no, this is for a party next Friday night at my house. And you're not invited to it." So this guy goes, "Oh man, I'm in the record business and I run a label." "Sure you do." So. And then Jan really liked it when the guy said, "I'll pay for that." "Oh, how many were going to get made?" He goes, "Oh, 10. I'll pay for all 10. "Yeah." So he takes the stupid thing off, and that we never hear from him again. And he went back to his office and called up musicians and stuff, and he actually made it a hit. He said, "I'm going to make you bigger than the Everly Brothers." I thought, God, this guy is a nut job. And there that was. It was a top 10 record, and poor Doris, oh God, she didn't much care for rock and roll. But anyway, so that's that story.
You had a very interesting life. Really, really.
It's been okay so far.
I mean, how do you go from, shows how creative you are. Music, graphic designs, sharp, pretty interesting guy from the West Coast.
But I wanted to be a Formula One driver, though. That's all I got left. That's one I haven't done yet. But
You want to do that?
I had go-karts with Dennis Wilson, but we kept wrecking him. We'd take him to a track, and I think we would last about, Dennis would last about 3 minutes, and that was broken. And in mine, I could get at least 10 minutes out, and we break him. So then hey, we're rock stars. And okay, we break 2, let's go buy more. Right. You can get those fixed, and then maybe we should have at least 4 to 5 go-karts, 6. So how are we going to get them around? Well, we need, and then I thought, I'll buy a van. Because I can. I bought a van, and Dennis and I put our 4 go-karts in a van, and then Carl Wilson wanted one. Okay, Carl, we get you one. And I got to keep them all because they were busy, so I would keep them in the van, and then when they'd come into town, we'd take all the go-karts to the track, wreck them, and they would go home, and I would deliver them to the shop to get fixed by the time they got back.
Wow. You were an East Coast kid. You had a...
Oh, you guys had a lot of go-karts, didn't you? I bet you did. And tracks to race on.
You have any questions you'd like to ask this young man?
Uh-oh. No, Derry, no. No.
Hal Blaine.
Well, in my opinion, of course. Yeah, he was right up there, Hal was one of the best.
Absolutely.
I think he had about, at one point, maybe 150 to 200 gold records. Because all the acts that, if he played on your record, we would give him.
He played on those,
record.
all the things that Sinatra and Dean and Sammy did. And also Ernie Freeman, which was interesting, was the arranger for all the later things for Frank. And, Frank really, musically, was always attuned to what was happening. And he wanted the best. And he basically was like an East Coast talent, where you would walk into the studio, he would know it. And after 3 or 4 takes, I'm leaving here, man. Because he relied on the musicians.
Oh, they were.
To really, and Don Costa and cats like that, And it's funny because Jimmy Bowen, who basically was country, wound up producing most of the things later on for Sinatra on reprise back then, But you guys had your own sound, man,
Well, Hal loved to tell. He told me a story about within the Wrecking Crew, we added in Glenn Campbell
Yeah.
because he wasn't in the original Wrecking Crew, and we added in Leon Russell,
Yeah.
a guy named Larry Nechtall, Joe Osborne. Anyway, the younger guys we started putting as a part of this whole thing. And so there was a Sinatra session, and Hal was the contractor, so he added Glenn in to the Sinatra session.
Yeah.
And Sinatra was in the booth kind of looking out, and he sees this young guy, and he didn't have a music stand. Everybody else had a music stand because his stuff was all written out.
Yep.
This young guy didn't have a music stand. So he called Hal in. He goes, that fellow over there with the guitar doesn't have a music stand. Well, he doesn't read music. Sinatra he was pissed.
Oh, I know.
Hal said, I think you'll like it. I said, we just hum it to him once or twice, and he knows it. Okay. And of course, he was great. So Sinatra said, oh, thank you. Yeah, he's really good. So that's Glenn. Glenn's super talent.
You have a question?
What album did you win the Grammy for
Oh, I don't want to talk about it.
Panorama, panorama, panorama.
Ramalama ding dong. It was stupid. It actually was. I was so embarrassed. It was a new group that nobody had ever heard of, named Pollution.
Yeah.
And they were relatively well. You know, they were good guys, and it was a good record. And they'd spent so much time on this and creating it, the music, and writing the songs and arranging and singing. And the name of the group was Pollution. You know, it was politically correct, I guess. Duh. And so I was called in because I knew the guys that owned the record company. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. But the record company guys said, you know, Dean, we want you to do this cover. And I said, okay. But this is what we want. And, okay, so what's that? We want a picture of a chicken coming out of an egg with a gas mask on. And this is before Photoshop, so we have to make all that stuff. So I knew a photographer that probably liked to do that, but I said, that's not really a good idea. Well, that's what we want. Do you want the job? I said, oh, okay. And they were friends, so I had to do it for him, but I really thought it was a stupid idea. So I hired a guy to do it, and he loved making the little mask, and I think he went out and found the little chicklet, and we had a photo shoot with the little chicken, and put the mask on him, and then put the mask on and then let go of him, and he went plunk. Well, that's not going to work. Stand him up again, thinking maybe he'll get used to standing. Plunk. No, that didn't work. Well, then we got a little piece of thread and put in the top of the gas mask and just held it up out of the frame of the picture, see? That worked. He stood up, and he was quite happy. We got that picture. And then the record company guys said also wanted this on the back to have the same thing with the dead chicken. I wasn't going to do that. So we had to create that. Now all we realized is take that thread off, and he'd fall over anyway. But then he fell over, and he kind of got up, and then we trying to calm him down. So somebody, not me, blew marijuana in its face.
That works.
Somebody did. He just relaxed and just laying on his side. It was kind of a funny picture, and that became the back. Now my problem was but these are musicians that worked really hard, and they're not getting their picture on the front. No. That didn't seem right to me. So I said, okay. So we did it. I did lobby to get their picture at least inside. I don't think they were too happy with any of it, but they didn't have any choice here because the smart guys wanted that done. So it comes out, it stiffs, nobody ever heard of it, and these poor people were left with nothing, not even a pretty album cover or nothing. And then I find out I get, I'm nominated for a Grammy for that stupid thing. I was hoping none of my friends, graphic designers, would see it because that would be really embarrassing. I was up against Sticky Fingers, the Rolling Stones.
Sure.
I'm going, no way I'm going to win. I mean, Sticky Fingers, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, with a zipper in it.
Yeah.
And it's the Rolling Stones, and this is an unknown group with a chicken thing. So
Listen, you never know where your career
there's the
is gonna
Grammy.
go.
Oh, shit. Okay.
At any rate, I am getting a cue from Don
yeah, you
DeLuise
are.
up there. My man,
They have
Don
things to
DeLuise.
do. They
Listen,
want to go to the
Where you wanna go?
buffet.
we're going to have to spot. Listen, I could sit down with you for 24 hours, drink a little wine, and talk about these days, But we got to
Someday.
go. Ladies and gentlemen, how about my man, Dean Torrence? My man.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you.
My man.